In this episode, we're talking all about virtual assistants. We're going to get into why it's important to hire a virtual assistant, when it's the right time to hire a virtual assistant, and tips on how you can make the most out of your relationship with your virtual assistant.
Say you're a real estate investor and either you're starting out or you've been in real estate for a few years and you're looking to scale your portfolio. Why do you really need a virtual assistant? So let's start with why do you need a virtual assistant, right? So number one, as you scale your portfolio, there'll be so many tasks that come up and so many things that you will need to get done that you will want to focus on things that scale your business
and make decisions.
And also some things that are repeatable, right? That are constant. It's like if you don't hire a virtual assistant, it's like a death by 1,000 cuts.
Right.
Because every single thing will fall on your shoulders alone.
Yeah.
So hiring a virtual assistant allows you to outsource the really repeatable tasks that they can do day in, day out, and also create systems and processes around it. Right. So a lot of times, if you're the only doer in the business, you're the only person who's executing in the business, not only will these random things that come up that you will need to take care of, but also there'll be a lot of things that need to get done every day that you just do, but you don't set up systems and processes around because you don't have time to do that.
You're just operating on them like clockwork. You're not even thinking about it. You're instinctively doing them again and again without thinking about it until you have to outsource it to someone.
It's like playing whack-a-mole, right? Like every time something comes up, instead of saying, hey, I've got a standard operating procedure around this, or I have a process around this, you will just do it. But then, and more importantly, it takes time away from things that you should be working on, which is growing and scaling your business.
So as a CEO, whether it's in real estate or any other business, your job is to grow the business. That is your entire job. And so if you constantly focus on things that are repeatable, that are execution-based, it's taking time away from your actual job, right? So if you are very, very new in this business, in the beginning, you will have to figure things out on your own. But as you start scaling, you're going to need help. So you can continue scaling the business and you have help with executing the smaller tasks.
Yes.
And that's when a virtual assistant comes into play.
It's literally like having an extra pair of arms and legs, right?
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about the tips that you can use and implement within your own business when you're working with virtual assistants. So one of the first mistakes that I made in this business is hire a virtual assistant, and then I gave them things I really didn't want to deal with. So instead of giving them tasks that I was repeatedly doing on a day-to-day basis, because it was easy for me to just continue doing them, something new came up and I said, you know what, go do this, figure this out, figure this project out. Now, that person doesn't understand my business. That person doesn't understand how I like to do things. Giving them a project that I don't want to figure out, how can you expect them to figure that out, right? So that was the number one mistake I made. What I really should have done, and then I started doing them and saw a major impact, was look at what I was doing on a repeatable basis and gave them those tasks with clear instructions so they could make an impact in the business from the get-go. So number one tip is don't give them a brand new project that you don't want to deal with. Give them something you're already doing and you can make a repeatable process for them. Second was you have to understand that a virtual assistant is virtual. They're not based in the same office as you, right? They can't really walk over to you and tell you that, listen, I'm kind of stuck here, right? There is no like conversations happening at the water cooler that happen in a physical business location. So you have to give them opportunities to be able to come to you with questions, be able to come to you when they're stuck. I think as a virtual assistant, what I've noticed is for them, it's really hard to figure out whether they're stuck and they should ask for help or whether it's something they need to figure out on their own.
Yes. I think, and that takes time to figure out, to get to that same page with the virtual assistant that you hire.
Right.
Because initially you want to be work closely with them for the first month where you spend time onboarding them, tell them how you like to do things and how the processes need to be set up, you do need to spend time in training them.
Yes.
Right. And but that initial spending time with them really pays you back manyfold in the long term, because now they know how you like things. They will set up the systems and processes the right way, and they'll take more ownership because they know how to do it now. They feel empowered.
Right. And I highly recommend Slack. So what we do is beginning of the day, midday, and end of the day, we use Slack, where our virtual assistants post, hey, these are the things I'm working on beginning of the day. Midday, they post an update. These are the things that I'm doing right now. This is how far I got. And so when you're looking at it, you'll be able to realize that, hey, why are you still working on that? That should have taken you 10 minutes. That should have taken you 1 hour. You must be stuck. Let me help you. And I always tell them that our job is to help you do your job, right? So don't feel like you can't come to us if you're stuck, because that's our job.
Yes.
So midday and then the end of the day, again, an update. And so when they're stuck on something, it'll be easier for you to figure out, hey, this is something that this person's working on for a long time. I wonder if they're stuck, and let me help.
And, Slack also allows you to hop on a huddle with them,
Right?
You can call them real quick if there's a question that they have. And in the first few days, you really want to be having multiple of these conversations, and don't think that you're nitpicking in the first month. The more feedback they get actually helps them improve.
Absolutely.
And so it's really important to give them more detailed feedback up front in the first few days.
Absolutely. Yes. And then the next tip is to work on a really good bank of SOPs, standard operating procedures. And these procedures are very specific to the work that they're doing for you. So number one task for a virtual assistant is, hey, I'm going to leave you voice. I highly recommend voice messages if you're not doing that already, because you can do it on the go. I'm going to leave you voice messages. I want you to take those and turn them into standard operating procedures and send them to me for review. And then you can take a look at it. And now you have a written documentation of the things that you want them to do on a repeatable basis. And you can take a look at it, and you can be like, hey, listen, I know I said that, but when I read it now step by step the way you've written it, I think we should change it this way. And so now you and your virtual assistant have a bank of SOPs that they can use to follow. That's their entire job now.
Yes.
And make it over time.
I think SOPs completely will change the way you run your business, right? It'll make execution so much easier, so much more efficient. And not only will your virtual assistant be able to create those SOPs for you, but guess what? If tomorrow they decide to leave and you need to hire somebody else, you have this entire bank of SOPs that you can just hand over to the new person that's joining. That makes the training and onboarding a breeze.
Absolutely. 100% right. And then the thing that really helped me was working on what I was doing for 2 straight weeks and writing down every single item I was working on. So if you're thinking about, do I even have things to give to a virtual assistant? Take 2 weeks, walk around with a notepad, and then every task you do, write it down. 2 weeks later, you're going to have a big bank of all the things that you're working on, right? And then you'll be able to point out things that you're constantly doing again and again, and they can do those for you.
Yes. I mean, and a lot of us don't do this. Like, do this process and stick to it for 2 weeks, because you'll be surprised by the number of things that you have to deal with that you just forget that you have to deal with.
Right.
But just writing it down, not only helps you, jot down the things that you're working on, but also the frequency of how many times you have to do that in a week or every 2 weeks. And then you can build the SOPs, you can build the processes with your virtual assistant accordingly.
Absolutely. And lastly, what was really fun was a 2-week virtual assistant challenge that I did. Basically, you hire a VA for 2 weeks, and now you have to find things for them to do. And I would highly recommend, don't try to make the most out of their time. Please, don't try to do that. But you're going to find a lot of things that you can give them to do if you just have them at your disposal for 2 weeks. And when I did this 2-week VA challenge, it changed my life, because I didn't realize that just having someone available to help me would allow me to think of so many things that I wouldn't have thought of otherwise, right? So give yourself a 2-week VA challenge if you haven't already done that.
I love that. And, just to add to that, like a lot of times, at first when we hired a virtual assistant, we thought it was a luxury. And it still is, by the way, it still is.
It still feels like it sometimes.
Right now, it's not. It's a need. We could not live without all the virtual assistants that we have in our business. So, hire one. And if you're investing in real estate and if you have so many things going on, if you're wondering if it's the right time to hire a virtual assistant, maybe it's already too late, right? Because if you can feel the pain and you're like, oh, I wish I had like somebody else who could do this for me, it's probably time to hire someone.
Yes.
Right. And there's so many services out there.
There's some really good services.
Agencies that'll find a good virtual assistant for you. So if you're dreading this, that, oh my God, how am I going to find a virtual assistant? Like, how am I going to interview them? There's agencies that'll help you based on your needs, hire somebody and also help them onboard and train a virtual assistant for you.
And there are some really good agencies. What they'll do is they'll also provide them with healthcare and benefits. So you don't have to worry about your virtual assistant being based somewhere overseas. How are you going to put them on your payroll? How are you going to provide healthcare and benefits and all of those things to them? You don't have to worry about any of that. The agency takes care of that for you. So your employee is happy. In the meantime, you don't have to do any of the legwork. You just pay a set fee per month. And now you have, in a box, you have a set up way to work with your virtual assistant.
Right.
All right. So let us know, give us any feedback you have on what all you would like for us to cover in our upcoming episodes. We're looking for more ideas and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
When you're ready to get serious, you can join us at theinvestoraccelerator.com.
It's like getting 1,000 episodes worth of information in 5 days, and it's everything you need to build your actionable plan to financial freedom and making work optional.